This is a video created to accompany the music education research text by Miksza, Shaw, Richerme, Hash, and Hodges. In this video, we'll introduce you to some basic features that are helpful to understand when getting started with the SPSS statistics program. To get started, you can open a data file through the drop-down file menu, like so. You'll see that there are several options for different sorts of files associated with SPSS, and then if you scroll down just another click there, that it is also possible to import data files created in other programs such as Excel or other statistical packages. Once you open a data file, the screen will open in the data view as is shown here. The data view is essentially a spreadsheet. Like most spreadsheets of data in music education research, the rows are representative of different participants, and the columns represent characteristics of the participants that have been measured, or in other words, variables. What is shown here is the data set that has been provided to accompany the descriptive statistics chapter of our text, which is a portion of the data collected by Miksza and Tan in their 2015 study of collegiate musicians practicing. This data set includes information for 170 participants. So you'll see there's 170 rows if you scroll down, and 12 variables, 12 characteristics or measurements for each of these participants. And so if you scroll across, you'll see that there are 12 columns. It's also possible to toggle over to what SPSS calls the variable view down at the bottom of the window here. The variable view option allows you to input and view more detailed information about each of the variables or columns of the data set. It includes a designation for the name of the variable that appears at the top of the column in the data view. There's also a column referencing the type of variable. In this data set, all of the variables are represented with numbers in a general format. That is, none are represented with text and none are special formats like dates or currency, so they are just labeled as numeric type variables. There are also columns like width, decimals, a column called columns, and a line, and each of these refers to the appearance of the columns in the data view that you can alter. The label column is a space to input a more detailed description of the variable. So you'll see that, for example, for instrument, it says in a more detailed way, participants, instrument type. So just more description of what each column represents. The values column is a space where you can input extra labels to clarify the meaning of values for nominal and ordinal variables. For example, in the data view, we see that each participant has a number in the column for which instrument they play, 6, 3, 7, 2. And when you look at the values for the instrument variable in the variable view, you can see how each number is paired with a particular instrument. So those who have a number 1 in this spreadsheet means they play the flute, and so on. In this case, the values field clarifies what each category of this nominal variable represents, in other words, instruments. There's also a spot for designating a value to represent missing data that appears or that does not appear in a field in the data view. That can be helpful. It's also helpful to assign your variable a measurement scale designation. So in other words, nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. SPSS uses the term scale to describe either interval or ratio level data. And so you'll see here that there are nominal designations and then scale designations. And scale refers to interval or ratio level data, since the same statistical analyses functions can be performed on either. Designating the measurement scale for your variables is a good thing to do for your own sake, but it is also important because certain functions in SPSS will use these designations when conducting analyses. And if the variables aren't labeled correctly, certain functions may not operate the way you hope they would. It's also possible to assign each of your variables a role, which refers loosely to things like dependent or independent variables and so on, but we don't need to discuss that now. Switching back to the data view once more, there is one more option that is valuable to highlight at this time. There's a button that allows you to toggle between views that do or do not include the value labels that have been assigned to nominal or ordinal variables. That's this button up here that shows a 1 or an A in a box. So you can see if I click it, Then it changes the code, the numerical codes, to the valued labels, the actual words, the instruments that they represent in this case. And if you click it again, it'll go back to the numerical codes. right? Often it's helpful, again, to view your data with the value labels since the numbers can be arbitrary. There are, of course, many other options available when it comes to organizing and viewing data in SPSS, and there are manuals and videos available for learning about them. However, those options and features discussed in this video are key for getting started in the program. Thank you very much.